Hi, good morning, good morning. So we have these yellow flowers and this prepared piece of paper. I'm covering the microphone. We have yellow flowers, prepared piece of paper, bit of everything hanging about here. I had set myself up. See, when I use those words, set myself up, I kind of feel like I'm onto something that isn't great for myself because I don't tend to do well with setups. I had set myself up to do some oil paint on the gerbera, the orange flowers I started yesterday. And I bought the oil paints in from the studio last night and everything. And then I just wasn't feeling it this morning. I just thought launching into using oil. And I think I had an idea that it would be amazing when I started putting oil paint on it. And as soon as you start to think things are going to be amazing as well, that's another kind of, pressure. So I decided to do something light and small, and there was a bit of blue paper already painted, and I thought, is there anything blue around now? And although I've painted this already this week, I was drawn to paint it again, that little cup. It's got the writing "Listen to the World" on it, and it has some blue, and it's got enough blue there that I can respond to it, like with the stencil, maybe by putting some white around. Let's see. Yeah, I might start with that, putting the stencil on and using some white paint. It's still wet on the palette there, so that's good. Right, I'm gonna climb back over there and see what I can do. Okay. Just gonna sort out the microphone lead there, and I'm hoping now that I'm not gonna start bumping into the iPad because I'm sitting just in front of you. But I think you're okay. Yeah, well, actually there needs to be a little bit more yellow over here because I want the handle of the jug to fit it, of the cup to fit in. So I'm going to move those flowers over a little bit. Everything is kind of all over the shop here now, but I do have some bit of order too. I kind of feel like I've got everything that I need around me. Okay. Yeah, you're there, aren't you? Okay, I'm going to straighten my back up now. I've just done my yoga and 20-minute meditation. This routine suits me if I can remember that it suits me, and if I can remember that rather than being a bind, it's actually a help in setting myself free, because, well, I don't know, at the moment anyway, that sort of feels like it's a good thing for me to start the day well like that. And then I have a few hours of on Remarkable Women the other day, they were saying like, what is it? Remarkable Women is a group of business women. By the way, do you know what? If you've not been here before, my name is Anya, and you're very welcome. And thanks for sticking with me this far when I didn't even introduce myself. Really, I could do that each time. No, I think there's a small bit of slippage in the image, but you can see well enough most of it anyway. I can always push it up a little bit. Okay, what was I going to say there? I was talking about something there now. On Remarkable Women, yeah. So this is a group of women that I'm connected with. I kind of did their leadership program last year, which involved listening to a masterclass each month. And it's run by a couple of really wise women who are good fun as well, and just, I love it. Remarkable Women, Nick and Danielle, look them up. Anyway, what did they say? I'm forgetting what I was going to say that they said. What did they say? I was talking about freedom, wasn't I? Well, I forget what I was going to say there, but one of the things they say is that it's all made up. 9 to 5 made up. 3 meals a day made up. Feel like you have to eat the main course before the dessert, made up. All of that stuff. So really, like, I can just kind of look, find out what it is that we are doing, and if it suits us, fine. But at least to look at what we're doing and recognize that in other places in the world, what we are doing might be considered madness, and we could be missing out on things that might actually suit our way of working. That's not what I was going to say. Anyway, it's said now. Yeah, so my feeling at the moment is, I think that takes away judgment of myself and my tendency at times to stay up all night and the kind of, it takes away judgment over those days and weeks and sometimes months where I feel really stuck. And instead of judging it, to actually just notice, okay, so that happens for me sometimes. And maybe rather than judge it, to accept that's the way it is, and that there are other moments in life, months in life, when I'm on fire. And I guess in my psyche I can't have one without the other. I can't, there needs to be a fallow time, doesn't there, in order for us to be able to produce or to create, to be in a creative. There's like a download as well. Downloads of creative stuff need to happen. And that's not just, like, it doesn't mean that you have to go to galleries and stuff like that. I find that I just need to kind of let myself enjoy my life, A bit like Mary Oliver said, you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You simply have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. There we have it. And another thing she said was rules for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. So here we are on paying attention to these flowers. I can say clearly, been astonished, and now I'm telling about them. Yeah, but the thing for me that's most crippling is that debilitating voice in the head that just doesn't really get it. It wants to be safe, I suppose, more than, above all else, wants safety. Or I don't know what it wants really, but anyway, it's not it's like Liz Gilbert says, she lets her voice of fear speak, and she gives voice to it, puts it on paper, and then she says, okay, no, you've had your chance, fear. Now it's the turn of the voice of wisdom. And then wisdom speaks for a while. And she says, as long as fear isn't driving the car, you're okay. Like, you can say to fear that it can have a voice, but you don't listen to it. You don't follow its instructions, I suppose, is the thing. So I like that, because it's not in complete denial of it even being a thing, because I think we all do experience fear and stuckness as well and all that stuff. And rather than deny it's happening, finding ways to manage that. Yeah. And I like tuning into folk who have worked in the creative, who are working creatively in their lives and are managing to show up for themselves that way. And also, so I like listening to them, because I feel like their advice is kind of on the ground stuff that they've actually developed through their own particular kind of madnesses. There's so many wise voices out there. There's so many podcasts, and I think they kind of drift into my life when I most need them, or when I'm receptive. Yeah. And even then, those kind of things can be an addiction almost, can't they? Like, you think, oh right, I've nailed it now, this person is exactly who I need to be hearing. And then there's a tendency to like binge watch or binge listen, and kind of in the process forget your own drivers. Oh. Right, what's the story here now, I wonder? So we've some sort of pattern happening for the... Gosh, I twisted my back a bit funny there. We've some sort of pattern happening for the jug. I'm just going to take whatever's left on this. A little bit of red there. So I'm taking whatever's left on the palette from yesterday and putting it onto my clean palette here. That was my plan for the gerbera. See that? That's fluorescent orange. So I don't know if that's got any place here, but sure, I may as well put it on the palette just in case. Put that to one side. So now I've got my new palette started, and I've got red, orange and blue. I want to put some yellow on there, and I think white as well, because I'll probably, I put too much yellow. I'll probably end up using something for the, I'll probably end up cutting out the background somehow, so I maybe need to make a colour that'll do that. And there's quite a bit of green. There's some green coming in there too, so the sap green I'll use for some of those dancing flowers. But yeah, the white is a necessary. Where did I put the white now? There it is. I'm just going to take it off the inside of the cover. You can't see, but I'd say here. Maybe you prefer not to see the flowers I'm painting, but I'd like you to see them as I'm working on them. And they're just about in the picture. I know half of them aren't. Like you're not getting the one that's up highest there, but you can't see it on here with the light behind it. Okay, what am I going to do now? I think I'm going to make a colour to represent the background. Well, no, first, I couldn't talk there, but that in my mouth. First I'm going to put on the yellowy green shaped thing that's directly above that flower. There'll be some repositioning of flowers here, I'd say. And then those three leaves over to the right there. And then there's some more little leaves there, and there'll be a stem there. I'd say I'll probably need to do the background right in order to paint the shape of those smaller things. And I'm happy to put the background in. It feels like it'll be satisfying to carve out the shape of those leaves with the background colour. And then just put any swift darks I can see, and just now to start explaining the shape of those flowers there. Interesting, the background in some places is darker than the flowers, and in other places it's lighter. Yeah, like my silver car is behind the flower there, and it reads as being lighter than this flower. I'm just going to put the green there as an indication of the position of the flower and the shadows. Alright, and then I might use my fluorescent orange to make the colour of the outdoors there. I think it works well enough. Something like that seems to be the colour of the car, is it? And that's a bit neat. It needs to be lighter than that, and bluer, cleaner probably. So maybe I can just use that colour that I've mixed up. It's a grey-green. You can't really see it, I'd say. But I've mixed up a grey-green from the sap green, the fluorescent orange, and a little bit of the ultramarine blue. And it looks to me like that colour is quite true to the background over here. And in a way, I'm kind of happy with it, because it looks like it's not unlike the colour of the mug. And that seems fairly true for me as well. The mug is a bit cleaner. So there's a stem there. And I can paint the stem by painting the background up to meet it. And then there are just some little tiny bits of twiggy stuff going out to those leaves there. I quite like talking myself around what I'm doing. I don't know if it's very boring, but it feels quite a soothing thing for me to just be looking and drawing down. I suppose that's the thing that quenches that voice in the head too a bit, is actually being here, locating the position of things. And maybe it's the voice in the head that's doing that for me. It's saying, okay, so this is here and this is here. It just probably just wants to be busy, doesn't it? It wants to be given some task of some kind. And yeah. So for some reason I felt a bit uncomfortable talking about it there. It's like it took me away from the task again. It took me away from just this kind of quiet meandering of following the brush around the shape of the leaves. And the stems and things. Okay, so there's another one there. I mean, the frame of the window is behind them too, but I think that might be a step too far in terms of information, visual information just now anyway. I'm going to just give myself the job of painting the shape of the leaves first. And if I want to introduce the window frame, I can do that after anyway. So that's there. And then for us to know that it's also on this side would be kind of helpful. And the fact that the window frame is horizontal and runs through the cup and out the other side is kind of handy too. I'm going to put that there so that we know this is background here. And so is this over here. Coming up to meet the dark underneath that flower on the side of the cup. And it also sits up here, but it's a bit cleaner and brighter as it goes up to where the car is, because the car is kind of a silvery, it's a bright silvery blue behind the yellow flower there. And that yellow flower sits high up, doesn't it? It sits higher up than the other one by quite a distance. There's a fair bit of space here with just one dark petal curving down to join the others. And there really is only just, I'm just trying to move myself so that I can see the light behind it. I'm creating this really bright bit behind that flower there because it suits me, I think, to have that really light background shine. It's the shine on the car. And the similar shine is happening over here where the cup meets the twigs. That circle there. It's kind of nice to have this similar tonal thing going on in a couple of places. So being as bright there as it is there. This is where I do begin to miss the oil paint a little bit, or to start considering using the oil paint, I should say, really, because it does really sting out from the, maybe do that there. It's from the acrylic. Yeah, the oil paint has a luscious quality to it. So that's there. And that's actually going to be there. And then there's more space before the next petal. There. And yeah, before the next petal, that's there. And then there's a bit more shadow over here. And it's kind of light actually, that bit, so it's coming down to meet the stem. Actually, I'm going to put some red, and yeah, I want to make it a bit darker as it comes down here. So So I put some ultramarine blue and red into the ultramarine blue and cadmium red into the mix there to create a slightly different background colour, which I think will also occupy the space up here. Yeah, and it's going to be quite, I need more blue actually. More of the ultramarine blue because I want to extend that. Whoa. An explosion of blue. I want to extend that background colour up because I think it's helpful really for the full background to be explained. And obliterate all the blue, and then we can kind of make a bit more sense of things, I think. It actually starts to get kind of greenish again behind there where the grass is. So it's exciting. Beyond the window there are quite a few different shades of grey, and I quite like that. Not knowing what's there really, but actually just noticing the change of muted colour. And it's muted because it's through the glass and beyond. And then there's the fence. When I'm looking at it now, I'm starting to notice things that are sitting there. The fence has got another slightly reddish, orangish kind of feel to it actually. And some leaves, autumn leaves are on the ground back there too. I don't want to get too involved in the background now. I start making it a portrait of that. And certainly those oranges will need to be toned down a little bit. But it's quite nice when there's a split of petals and in between them the colour is quite clear, and that's occurring here where there's a reddish colour in between two of the yellow petals. So I like to work up to the brights, the lightest colours, and that's what I'm doing here, is I'm creating the background coming up to meet where the yellow petal will be when I later put on the brightness of the yellow on it. So creating kind of a foil behind that'll allow the petal to really sing out. Okay, and then I think this, not just because it tore when I lifted it off, but I think something needs to happen there. Let me see if I just put it blue. I wonder if I could maybe leave that bit blue and then have something for the, yeah, like a Payne's grey again. I might use Payne's grey. Now Payne's grey is not unlike black, but it does have just a little bit more to it than black does, I find. So I'm mixing it here now to make a colour that'll be for the shadow that's cast by the cup onto the windowsill there. And I'd say I'm making the cup a bit more squat than it actually is, which again I'm kind of okay for. I'd sacrifice that than to make than to have to put an addition on to the paper to fit the cup. I certainly want to anchor it down, and I think it is actually true to the length of the cup. What I've done there, I think I'm getting away with it. I might as well do the old masking tape thing. So I know how far up I'm going. And the background is almost the same colour as the cup. So I painted over the edge of the cup there a bit, so I'm going to paint on just a little bit of something there. It might be a tiny bit lighter than that. And it seems that the cup there is a bit lighter than the background, but then where it begins to turn, the background seems to be lighter than the cup. Just there's a flash of light as the cup turns, and it extends out here. It does the same on the other side actually, just at the bit underneath the edge there. Looks to me to be a little bit lighter than what the cup is. So some paintings I find myself documenting what's here, and other paintings there's something more like selection happening, and this feels a bit like documenting with no attachment to whether I'm documenting the right stuff or not. I'm just kind of going with it. And there's a little bit of yellow ochre, I think, in that plastery kind of stuff between windowsill and window. I'm just mixing up a muted yellowish colour there, and it'll run through and out this side, maybe a little bit more yellow ochreish. I made it with lemon yellow and then cadmium red and just a dirty brush. So in other words, the three primaries: lemon yellow, cadmium red, and blue and green. Blue, probably ultramarine blue in there, but it's mostly lemon yellow and cadmium red, so it's got a kind of masking tape colour about it. Let's see. Every time I pull it off, I take off paint. And that was supposed to be the edge of the cup, but it's extending further than it needs to there. Although the cup does extend a bit further. What will I do now with that side? Yeah, I think I need to bring it over the yellow anyway. Payne's grey. I'll just put this on the bluey Payne's grey first to outline, to say that this is not flower, that this is cup, and then I can decide what more I want to do. And I'd say I might bring it down here too, just to say that this is cup here as well. And then that's background, torn background. Which for some reason I'm painting the exact same colour as the cup. Okay, bit of texture on the windowsill is no harm anyway. A little drink, break. No, I think it would help me if I were to put the centre into those flowers, into at least this one here, the side where the centre is. And again, I think it's a yellow ochreish colour, so I'm just going to make that with the cadmium red, lemon yellow, and then blue, quite a lot of blue, so that it darkens it, because it's yellow ochre but dark. I find it needs to be quite a dark yellowish colour. I'm going to chance it. Now the centre of that flower is to the left of the cup, really. It's there, but a tiny bit more blue in it to sharpen it up a bit more. That's alright. And then there'll be more background colour, won't there, because I've shifted that flower to the left a bit now. I'm just putting some sap green into this colour that I was using for the centre, and then putting white into it too, so that I can make up a colour that represents the background again. And it'll kind of come down here, and actually that stick will move over a bit. Just need to repaint that. That's fine. So just cutting into that a bit, and also cutting into the cup a bit more over the flower here, and making the inside of the cup with the dark Payne's grey too, as it curves around the back there. And I'll be able to change, like, you know, the yellow will come over it, and again too, possibly. yellow of the flower. Yeah, I think that's maybe not quite as dark. There we are. And then, yeah, that's going to be that greenish colour. Okay. Oh, sugar. There's a brush with a fair bit of white on it there now. I'll just get it. Ow. That was a yoga move. What am I doing? So, what would I use this white for? Maybe a little bit there, if it wasn't almost dried in. Another little bit to describe the clean edge of the shine on the cup there. And over here for the handle. Just for the carve in the handle, there'll be something there. And the carve in the handle down here too. It's fairly light. I think I may as well use a stencil again there. It's a different stencil, but it's grand. Just some sort of pattern needs to be established, I think, to make it read as a cup again. From there. And I think up here as well, where the new grey has been painted on. I think I just saw Callum pass by the window. Is it Aaron's boyfriend? I'm going to go back to the one I preferred. I think it was this one. I don't know if it was, but I just want to put something more clear again in the centre. You heading out? Are you heading out, Erin? Yeah. All right. A little bit of Payne's green on the handle. I feel like all of this was like a setup for see ya. All of this I feel like is a setup for injecting some colour into the yellow. And once I've got everything placed, that's maybe what I'm going to do. Let me just half close my eyes and decide what kind of yellow it is. I think it's a kind of grey blue yellow. That's in the shadows at least. That's what I call it anyway, as I'm trying to make it here in the palette. I think it is something like that in places. In some places it needs to be deeper in tone. Maybe a bit more orangey yellow. Let's try that. That's okay. So putting in the shadows and the yellow too will hopefully let the flowers themselves be even brighter in the bits where they are bright. I think it's less green and more orangey as we get up here. The grey, the shadow in it. I've got some paperworky things that I want to catch up on. Good stuff, like, but it just helps me to go to the coffee shop to do that. So that's what I'm going to do next. And I had a little pang there as I thought to myself, you should be in the coffee shop by now. You should have finished this. You know, the whole you should voice, which should under no circumstances be ever listened to. No, what about tearing a bit of yellow collage paper, or maybe using ink now that we're getting to the stage where it's going to be singing out. Wonder, oh my god, look at that. It's a good colour, but it'll need direction, won't it? How would I direct that now? But it is a good colour. The strength of it is mighty. Yeah. And the thing is with the ink, to have a real impact, it's necessary, I think, for it to be flat and for me to draw with a stick with the with the surface flat, so that it doesn't just all run down the way. So I'd say that might be enough of that. And this cadmium yellow is just too yellowish, but maybe mixed with the lemon yellow, it'll arrive at a colour that'll work. Especially if I don't put any blue in it, which I just did by mistake. Let's see now, where would I try this first? I could try it in these ones that aren't completely bright. I think it needs a bit more lemon yellow. So I did a Spotify playlist for myself yesterday. Lily convinced me to get the premium Spotify where you can listen anywhere and you can have 2 people on it. So she and I both have our own playlists and things. And it's fantastic. I used it in the car yesterday. God, it was great. I don't know how. The girls said it's not possible. But I don't know how, but I didn't download the songs, but they played in the car. So something happened. Maybe it was hotspot on my phone, the girls were saying, or something like that. Right, no, I'm up to here now, but there's something going on anyway, sure. There's some bit of movement, and maybe there'll be a breakthrough. I wanted to send them back a bit. I suppose I could bring those forward. Yeah, you see, this is probably now a good time to use oil paint. Or maybe I will just use a few strips of this collage. The paint that's underneath it can serve as glue. The acrylic paint works like that sometimes, depending on the thickness of the paper, I suppose, and the amount of paint that's lavished on it. Yesterday I went to see about painting a mural down by the coast. I told you that if you were listening yesterday to my video. And I went in for a lovely swim after. And my God, I went to this incredible cafe. My friend told me about it, overlooking the cliff. Like seriously, cliff drop edge stuff. It was right on the cliff. And it's called Drift Cafe in East Lothian, on the coastline. So that was just the business. I feel like I'm kind of doing well with my artist dates, aren't I? Remember I started last week talking about the day in Peebles. I do actually work as well while I'm doing them, so it's not fully a day off, but it suits me to have that combination, to feel like I'm enjoying things as well, along with, like, I might as well, if I'm going to have lunch, I might as well have lunch somewhere really spectacular. And if I am going to need to do stuff on the computer, I might as well sit somewhere, again, spectacular and inspiring. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take my landscape folk to this venue next, because it's got the two things, a good view and good food. So that's what's going to happen for any landscape folk. My daughter said she'd join me as well, because she wants to take up a bit more painting. Hope, who you'll have seen on videos before. She's my eldest now, she's 25 since January. And the four of us are going to go to Ireland for the reunion this year, which is on in Killarney at the end of June. And the four of us are going to go. I'm going to put Maisie into dog care, nearly said childcare, and we're going to head over, and that's when we're going to see my parents properly too, for their 80th. It was my mum's 80th last Sunday and my dad's 80th next Sunday. So we're going to celebrate those in June properly. I think that could go there. I'm getting a little bit mixed up with my yellows, but I'm kind of happy to bring in the brightness into it anyway. I'd say I might lavish some more. If in doubt, lob on more bright. This is the lemon yellow, straight from the tube, really. Sometimes the colour can take over in a good way. The colour can be the main heartening thing. The main, rather than the structure of the petals, or the sometimes even tone, and it can even supersede tone, just to have a flash of the joy of yellow. Like, yellow is a joyful colour, isn't it? And so all of that really is in real life a bit darker than what I've got it. But I'm wanting to, instead of making it darker, I suppose I'm aiming to brighten up the brights over here, and even just to forget about bright and dark, like I said, and just let it be about the colour and the joy of colour, going some way towards explaining the incredible beauty of flowers. Such gorgeous things, aren't they, flowers? I think Ralph Emerson maybe was who said flowers are God's laughter. I might have the wrong person, and the quote might be completely wrong, but you get the idea. I'm not sure what more I want to do there. I think I do want to outline, or to give some clarity with that ink. My old faithful little ink. I think I could use it to describe the edge of the flower, the yellow flower meeting the cup there, and possibly where the cup curves around the back there, and meets the yellow petal there again. And do that twig coming up to meet the other one. It can be here too, just so we know it's the same plant. And maybe a little bit more to describe this area. Or even just to go directly across to the other side and explain the underside of that flower. The thing with the ink and a stick is you can't predict really how thick it's going to come out. So you just kind of make an educated guess and then try to reserve the lines that you think that'll be thicker for the shadow areas. Right. I'm happy enough with that, but I think that this is, I'm a bit dissatisfied with the bit here, the big blob of black there. I don't think I needed it to be that dark there. I left off a little bit of that too there. Okay, now I think maybe this green could represent the patterns, the feeling of pattern that's on that flower, the green flower. It's like got quite a bit of light falling on the outer edge of that, and I think I want to describe that arc of light. I'll just get some glue now. Let's see, there's no paint on the back of this one, and hopefully this will work to, I don't know if that's a bit much really. I think it is. Even just the glue there helps a bit. Right, what else am I going to do now? I was considering looking for something yellow. A patterned yellow though. Let's have a look in my bag here. That's a kind of interesting one, isn't it? It's something anyway. Yeah, what I thought of finding was something yellow to go on the kind of shadowy side, just to bring a bit of pattern in. That's not going to work. Maybe I could put a pattern just into the central bit of the flower there. You know, that bit there. That's not right. How about one of these sunshiny things? It's a bit nuts. I like it though. It's nothing, no big deal, because you can take it off like if it doesn't work. Yeah, it's just making it brighter. I don't want it to be brighter. The thing is, I don't really have an awful lot of yellow pattern stuff. At least I haven't been able to find it just yet. But what about these? What about these books? Maybe something yellowish in here. Something green in there. I don't really want green. Nah. And what about this one? Now the thing with this is this colour on both sides. There's some yellow butterflies. I think I'll tear out some of these yellow butterflies and let them be part of it. Just for the fun of it. I'll take the glue from there. I don't think I want the background colour behind the butterflies though, because that's only making it too bright for the shadow side. The thing is, you see, I feel like I just need something different in here, and that there's quite a bit here that's a central point of focus that's not got much going on. I suppose I could just simply put more petals there, even if they're not needing to be as bright as that. I could let them be as bright as that, just this once. The ones in the shadow can be bright. So today's Friday now, Lily finishes school a little bit early. So I'm gonna go and get changed now, and I kinda like to be back not too late after her anyway, if I'm back after she gets in. But sure, it depends. Sometimes she doesn't come home until later on a Friday. She has some shenanigans with her friends or something. So I'm going to go and have a chat with myself in the coffee shop. Kind of pretending that I've not been chatting to myself all this time. Because I haven't, have I? Because you're there. God bless you if you're still there, in fairness. It's a bit of a long haul one. Yeah, it's nearly an hour, dear God. I might stick on a bit of that up there too, sure. Let's take enough paint up there. And it's a bit of a frivolous one, but bit of a frivolous kind of playful thing, which is welcome. You never really know, do you, what it's going to do for itself. It's kind of good, like you can only have the memory of something. You can only have the memory of something that's happened before, like on the way in. So it's good then for it to take a different turn, I find anyway. I want there to be fresh things happening every time, even if parts of it are a bit messy. Okay. Right, I'm going to stop there. Good enough for now. That's the old mantra. And maybe I'll try and hold it up for you to see it a bit more clearly. I hope that everything's going okay for you today, and that you have something nice will happen in your day. There it is. I like it on the screen. And there it is in real life. You can't really see it. I can lift it up a touch. You can't really see the top one. Okay, yeah. So, another Mary Oliver line. Tell me, what is it you will do with your one wild and precious life? And it doesn't have to be a massive, epic thing. Just one thing that brings you joy today. What about that? One thing that brings you joy. It might be a deep breath looking at the sun out the window, or the rain, or the fog, or whatever it is that's there. Alright, thanks for watching. All the best.